Hi all, this is the badging video for the Consew Industrial Zigzag and Straight Line Sewing Machine here at MakeHaven. Alright, so we're going to work our way through this machine. First, Robert's going to take the dust cover off, which you should put back on the machine when you are done using it. Let's look at the things that make this an industrial sewing machine versus a portable sewing machine. So a few things. One, you can see that the bed is flush with the table. So when you feed your material through, it can lay flat on the whole table and on the bed of the sewing machine and not have to go up like it does for a portable machine. Another thing is that down here, this is the pedal. So you push this down when you want to activate it. And this is the lift. So you use this knee lift to lift the presser foot. Just like that. You can also use the lever on the back to lift it up. Industrial machines also tend to have fewer functionalities than do portable machines. So this machine is actually kind of special in that it can do both straight and zigzag. It is quite powerful and very fast, which are two other qualities of industrial sewing machines. So this can move incredibly quickly and it can go through thick material. That also means it's more dangerous, so you need to be extra careful while you're using it and keep your fingers clear of the needle. And the last difference between a portable and an industrial machine is that the shank of the needle is round. So if you see this, it doesn't have the flat that you normally associate with the shank of a sewing needle. The way that you put this into the machine is by making sure that the long slot, which you should be able to see right here, is facing towards you. So you want to make sure that that's pointing towards you, and there's no flat that's going to register in that position, so you just need to make sure it's facing that way. And then that scarf in the back, that cutout, should be facing away from you. In this drawer here, we have needles. These came with the machine. If these run out, then we may have more in the store. They're all different kinds here for different purposes. Here are the bobbins that work with this machine. And here are extra plates and dogs. So there's some specialty functionalities of this tool that you might want to switch the plates and the dogs as well as the presser feet, which are in this bag. The ones that we have on here right now are multi-purpose, so they should generally do anything you need them to do, but they may not do everything perfectly. Now we're going to start to go through the process of using the machine. So you can see that the thread lives up here on this thread stand. You can use the large size thread spools or the more conventional small ones. First, we're going to look at how to wind a bobbin. So we're going to grab a bobbin from this box and place the bobbin right on this shaft here. And first, it goes through this hole here. Then the thread needs to go through this plate right here, like in between those two plates, and then through that second hole. And then you can see that I just pulled the thread so that it goes in between those plates. So now the tension of this knob has been applied. So this knob controls the tension of the thread on the bobbin. In general, you can just leave it in the position that it's in, but if for some reason you needed to increase or decrease the tension because it was too loose or too tight, then that's where you could do it. And then we're going to slide this right on here. All right. And then we push this lever down, just like that. So we're going to turn this on. The way that this works is you might have just heard this motor start spinning. It spins continuously when this button is pressed. And then there's a clutch, and so when you push this pedal, it engages the clutch, it starts spinning the belt, which spins the machine. So now that the machine is on, I'm going to slowly start pushing the pedal. You might notice that the needle continues to move even when the bobbin is threading. On this machine, there isn't a way to disconnect the needle, so just make sure that there's nothing that could get hit by that needle when it's moving. And it should automatically stop when the bobbin is full. All right, so you can see that it stopped winding the bobbin just when the bobbin was full. Then we can use a pair of snips to snip the thread here. We're going to slide this off. So now we have our wound bobbin, and we're going to load it into the bobbin case right here. So you take the thread, and you want this tail end to be oriented like this, so coming up, so it's coming up when it's facing you. And then we're going to put it right in here, sliding it right on. And then we take this thread, it goes through that slot, we pull it through until it pops into this hole, just like that. And then these bobbin cases have a special little thing where you feed it through this little thread guide, that little wrap piece of wire. So it'll look like that when you get it threaded through. Next, we're going to remove this cover plate so that we can access the location for the bobbin. But before we do that, we're going to turn the machine off because we could accidentally step on the pedal and put a needle through our fingers. So we're going to turn the machine off. And this machine has a nice motor on it, which means it's going to take a little while to slow down. So that means that if I push the pedal right now, it'll keep going. So we need to give that a minute so that it slows down completely. You can tell that it's done because when you push the pedal, it'll stop moving. You can also help to slow it down more quickly by pushing the pedal. And now you can see that it's done spinning. All right, so now we're going to slide this cover plate out of the way. I'm putting this hand underneath to help move it out of the way. So now you can see where the bobbin case is going to go. However, the needle is currently down, so we're going to rotate the hand wheel to lift the needle up. The hand wheel is always turned towards you. So the needle is now in the top position, and now we're going to take this case, and I'm lifting that lever, and it inserts just like this, so the lever is horizontal and clicks in place. And then we can close this cover. Here's the hand wheel I mentioned that should always be turned towards you, so like this. And this is the needle when it's in its top position. So now we're going to look at threading the sewing machine. So we can remove the thread from this because this is just for threading a bobbin. The first place that the thread goes is through this. It goes in the front, around, and back through here, just like that. So it's going to loop behind that hook, through these plates, these tension plates, behind this hook, down, then up and through this hole. And then we're going to go down through this last little tab, and then through the little loop right here. So now we're down here at the needle, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the needle out to show you how it gets inserted before we thread the needle. So I'm going to grab the screwdriver from this little drawer here. So this is the screwdriver. We're going to loosen the needle. Now here you can see the needle. And you can see the top is round all the way around. And there's the scarf, that's the back. And that's the long slot. And so that's going to go towards us. Then we make sure it's pushed all the way up and tighten it. Then we're going to thread the needle from front to back. All right, so now we're going to use the hand wheel to pull the thread up from the bobbin. So I'm turning the hand wheel towards me. I'm also going to hold this thread just so it doesn't get pulled out. And now I can pull this, and you can see that this thread got pulled up from the bobbin. So now we have both our threads at the top. All right, so now we can pull a little slack through here, and there we go. So now we're going to look at the other features on the machine before we start sewing. So we already looked at the hand wheel from the back side. We saw the things on the top, except for this guy. This is the presser foot pressure. So this is the presser foot, and this adjusts the amount of pressure that it provides. In general, we can leave that just as it is. Then here on the front, we can adjust a few things. So starting down here, this is the reverse stitch lever. So when you depress this, and then you tell the sewing machine to go by pushing the pedal, it'll go in reverse. And that can be useful for all sorts of reasons, for doing lock stitches. So at the end of a line of stitches, they don't come out, for example. And you can adjust the length of the reverse stitches, like the distance between each of those stitches, by turning this screw. So the further out that screw is, the longer those stitches will be. All right, so then this guy here is the needle position. We only adjust this when the needle is up, in that up position. It won't like moving when it's down there. And you would want to adjust the needle position when you want to adjust where your stitches are relative to your presser foot. So if you have the side of your presser foot aligned with a seam and you want this stitch to be right on top of the seam, then you might want to go to the right. You might want to be in the middle. Maybe if you put a zipper foot on, then you'd want to be in another position. So that lets you adjust it. And here, this puts the needle in the right position, middle, and left position. And you adjust it just by sliding it like that. It clicks in the middle and then just kind of slides over to each side. So we're going to leave it in the middle for now. This is the middle position, even if it doesn't line up perfectly with that mark. Going up from there is the stitch length. So it's the distance between each stitch, whether it's going straight or in a zigzag. It goes from 0 up to 5 to have longer stitches. Make sure to push this lever down so that you can turn this. It's much harder to turn this when this is not pushed down. So push this down, then turn it. 0 would mean that it was just stitching in place in one spot, and then 5 would have a long distance between the stitches. Then this is the stitch width. So in this position, straight up and down, has no stitch width, which means sewing in a straight line. If you want to adjust it so that it's sewing in a zigzag, the way that you do that is you make sure that this is loose. So here it says loosen for zigzag. So make sure this is loose, which it is. We're going to go here. We're going to loosen both of these. It says loosen, then tighten these to change stitch width. So they are both loose. The amount that you move this over is how wide your stitch width or your zigzag is going to be. So it can be a narrow zigzag like that or a wide zigzag like that. So I'm going to move this to something in the middle and then tighten both of these. And now it's in that position. If you wanted to return it back to a normal straight position, then you loosen both of these. It goes back to normal, and you would tighten this to go in a straight stitch, just like this. All right, so we'll start in straight, and then we'll do zigzag. So now we're going to practice sewing. So here is some heavier material that we're going to practice on. And then I'm going to turn the light on up here and maybe maneuver it so it's shining right on our material. Then I'm going to turn the machine on by pushing the on button. And we can hear it start to spin. And we're just going to do a simple straight stitch to begin with. Then I'm going to use my knee to lift this presser foot like that. Again, keep your fingers clear. This is a dangerous machine. It gets lowered. And now keep in mind that the pedal is very sensitive. So you want to start by pushing very lightly. And then we can do some lock stitches. I'm going to push the lever down over here to lock that in place. Now I'm going to try adjusting the stitch length to be longer. So I'm pushing this lever down, turning it up to 4. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the stitch width. So we're going to go here. These are all loose. So then I'm going to turn this somewhere in the middle, tighten, tighten. And now we're going to show the zigzag. And now let's take it out so that we can inspect the stitch. So I'm going to lift the foot, and I'm going to turn the hand wheel so the needle's in the top position, and it'll let go of the thread. So now we can pull this out easily. We're going to snip the excess. And now we can look at our stitches. So here you can see this is where we had the initial stitches, and then over here, and then here's the zigzag. Now if you look at the, oh my god. So even though the stitches looked pretty good from the front, when we flip it over, we can see it's a mess. So the way that the lock stitch works is we have the thread from the top of the machine and the thread from the bottom of the machine forming loops with each other like that, and they need to be in equal tension so that the loops, those fingers joining each other, meet up in the middle of the fabric. But you can see here that this bottom bobbin thread is much, much tighter. So that means that they are out of balance with each other. We're going to start by trying to tighten this top tension a little bit. So I'm going to start with a half turn, and let's try this again. And I'm going to put it back in straight stitching just to make things a little simpler. Tighten, tighten, tighten. Okay, then we're going to let go of this. Turn the hand wheel again, just so that it releases that bobbin thread. And let's see what happened. So it looks much, much better now. We can see down here that the threads are in the fabric. These look especially good. And from the top, they also look nice and tight. So that looks much better. It's still maybe not quite perfect, so I'm going to turn this just another little bit. And we'll do one last test. So we're going to start by doing some straight stitches. Then I'm going to do the zigzag, so I'm going to loosen this. Loosen, loosen, move you over, tighten, tighten. All right, let's see. And then maybe I'll just do some reverse zigzag to see what that looks like. Pushing down that lever. And now we'll release you, turning the hand wheel towards us. And there, I felt it release. And now if we look here, that looks very nice. Now we're going to flip it over, and it looks great from the back too. So now this is good to go. The tension is all set. This is obviously a fairly heavyweight fabric, so it is possible that the tension would need to be adjusted for different weights of fabric. There are also different types of needles that you might want to swap in for different types of materials. Feel free to talk to facilitators about different kinds of needles that you might want to use. And then when you're done, you obviously just want to clean everything up, put all your scraps away, all the scrap thread. We're going to return everything to neutral here. So I'm going to loosen you. See, that goes back down to 0. Tighten, tighten. We're going to turn this light off. And I'm going to turn you off. That's important. And now because there's thread in here, I don't really want to activate the sewing machine and have the thread get all bound up in each other inside there. So we're just going to let it spin down on its own. And then we're just going to put everything away. There's also the manual, which is also listed on the tool page. And then when you're done, you're just going to put the cover back on, and then you are good to go. Thanks for watching and have fun. So after filming the video for this sewing machine, I actually swapped the motor out. So it's no longer a clutch motor, it's what's called a servo motor. It has a similar switch here, so you can just turn it on, and that turns the light on. The difference is that it can go at a much slower speed. So here's the max speed setting, and right now it's set pretty low. So here you can see now that when I push the pedal, we can sort of creep along, and we can go even slower if you wanted to do that. And then you just push the pedal if you want to go faster. So here's a slower, speed than we could go before. And then if you push the pedal, that's medium fast, and obviously you increase the speed here, it'll go even faster. Another benefit is that now, after we turn this off, it stops spinning a lot faster. So that's it. It doesn't keep going for a while. And both of those things should make this tool now easier and safer to use.